Hey traders, checking into the stock market today. So big tech continues to lead the way with Apple hitting all-time highs in unison with QQQ. We are seeing some rotation as there is weakness out there in the places that we saw it yesterday. And we'll check in on some setups and stuff. So we can see SPY had a little bit of weakness here, but it was certainly short-lived. The hourly time frame we can see drop down and a V-shaped bounce back to the highs led by QQQ and the tech sector. So significant morning bounce. 15-minute RSI was down in the teens. 5-minute RSI was down in the teens. Couldn't have asked for a better bounce for the bulls. So that means the bulls are keeping their complete control. 470.49 and 470.65 are our resistances. Might as well just call it the all-time high. Bulls were hoping this is our new daily high or low at 466.34. We haven't officially confirmed an hourly trend change, but that's what the bulls are going to be looking for tomorrow. And again, there's just rotation going on right now. And we know how the rotation has been helping the bulls all since the COVID dump and bounce. And we have here QQQ leading the way to the upside, new all-time high today, while XLF is consolidating on the weekly time frame. And it's been consolidating for weeks at this point, just very minimally. So it hasn't had much downward pressure on the S&P 500. So further follow through for the XLF bears, still plenty of space for a weekly higher low to form. And again, the next thing we're going to be looking for into the end of the year is when we see a weekly higher low set on XLF, if that is indeed what's going to happen. And the only way it wouldn't happen would be with massive bear volume. If when we set a weekly higher low, is that when the tech sector is going to take a turn and start some consolidation? And we'll just see that rotation right back again. So something we're keeping an eye on. We know IWM has been weaker as well. And again, this stood out yesterday. IWM and XLF lead bears and QQQ lead bulls. And IWM, another day of pullback here. And again, that is due to the, in part, number one, the growth names are definitely having a big red week, growth sector. But number two, the financial sector pulling back. We know the financial sector is the largest holdings in IWM. So I personally have not paid attention to this kind of rotation in the broader market as much in my entire trading career of 11 years as I have in the last, I'll say 2 years, just as far as really clearly seeing the rotation game taking place. And for me personally, I'm looking forward to someday when I'm trading much less and not day trading, taking advantage of that where I'll just, in a situation like this, I'll just be long tech and short XLF at the same time and see how that balancing act works out. I'm going to play around with that at some point as a swing trader, and I look forward to it, but not in the short term, as I don't have plans of stopping day trading anytime soon. But if my back starts to hurt or something like that, you better believe I will switch it up real quick. So we got QQQ all-time highs, higher low everyday pattern, the last 6 days, hourly uptrend. Apple. So we know Apple broke bull yesterday, and we were waiting for this patiently. And again, we knew volatility was coming. When you get a tightening range, you know a volume spike in volatility is coming. What you don't know is the direction the break's going to take place. You can use the prevailing trend to shift probabilities. You can look at that and say, well, the broader market's bullish and coming off all-time highs, and the tech sector is holding on real well, so I'm going to favor this 60%. We're going to break bull, 40% bear. And we obviously broke bull, but there are clues and there's rotation. Or not rotation, laggard plays out there. So Apple, bull break yesterday, only resistance left, pretty much just the all-time high, which we broke today. Massive bull volume, massive follow through, great sign for the Apple bulls. But there was information there. So yesterday, watching to see if Amazon is a laggard to Apple on this daily breakout. Why was I looking for that? Because I watch the tech sector, Google and Facebook trade in a pair, Apple and Amazon trade in a pair. Those two pairs are more correlated to each other than any other combo of the major tech names. And I watch Microsoft a lot less, and it's more boring for me. I don't really have a good reason why. It is an important name, and I do check in on it, but it's not one of my major big tech names that I'm watching every day. Anyways, first let's go back. So why was I looking for this to be a possibility? Well, let's go back to October 15th and 18th. What was happening then? So here's Amazon's breakout today, following, again, tight daily range. No bull break yesterday, Apple breaks bull, and today Amazon rips higher. So, what happened October 15th? October 15th, we had Amazon Daily trend change attempt. Can the bulls hold the double bottom at our monthly support and confirm the daily trend change? Big bull volume, yes candle. And that was October 15th. And a little bit of follow through over the weekend, next day, Monday, October 18th. What was Apple doing at that same point in time? Well, here's October 15th. Strong close, but we're still at resistance. And there's the yes candle the next day. So Apple lagged Amazon by a day back in mid-October. And today, Amazon lagged Apple by a day. So just a little clue through observation. And it's worth scouting. Doesn't mean instantly buy one if the other's doing well, but it means look for a trade setup that has good risk reward. And it would be the kind of scenario where, once Amazon breaks high of yesterday, first thing this morning, maybe I enter, put a stop under the low of yesterday, and then hope for that laggard play. So again, always having my trade game plan established and a clear stop level and risk reward established, but that's something to use as a clue to look for. If one's doing one thing, look out and see if there's a trade setup presenting itself for the other to do something similar. IWM, we looked at daily downtrend. Bulls need an hourly trend change back in their favor. Then we'll scout a daily lower high to be the result of the next bounce. Again, growth names getting hit pretty hard. ARKK. You can see the weakness here, weekly time frame, rejecting right from resistance after a month-long bounce. And now the question is, can the bulls form a higher low compared to 106.35? But a lot of weakness in growth. NIO had a double bottom at $40 break yesterday. And a lot of bear follow through from that bear break of 40. These are just a couple growth names. Tesla, we looked at it yesterday. So Tesla, we've got this 4-hour potential inverse head and shoulders now. Double top at the neckline. And bulls need a higher low compared to 978.60. And then a break of that double top of 1120 for this to be an inverse 4-hour head and shoulders trying to set up a weekly higher low. Financial sector, daily downtrend, looking for a daily lower high, next bounce. Healthcare sideways. Volume and volatility are coming here in the short term. This one-day candle, we've been trading within this range for the last 8 days. So I'm looking for either a break of 134.26 for the bulls to keep short-term control or a bear break of 132.72. Again, right now we have clear tech team bull, clear financial sector and growth team bear. XLV hasn't chosen a side yet. It's in the middle of the road. It's not doing much of anything. And it's either going to join team bull or team bear. And we're patiently watching after 2 daily inside bars to see which direction. What is unusual, increasing volume on multiple inside bars. This is extremely rare. I don't have any insight as to what it means, but you will very rarely see increasing volume within a tightening range. That's odd. Biotech sector, key support test. So a potential play still here. Again, we tested it today and it held. And there have been times in the past where it looked like we were about to plummet right through support before we had some monster bounces. Looks like we're about to break support and roll over. Monster bounce. So here it is. Bulls shape up or we're going to break support. Have to hold 121.76 lower high everyday pattern for the last 10 days in a row now. And hourly time frame still weak. Anything under 124.03 is just an hourly lower high. The bulls have to confirm an hourly trend change back in their favor if we're going to have any confidence. If I were making a bottom fishing play off of this level, I would definitely give a bit of wiggle room. I wouldn't put my stop at 121.49. I would want to give, maybe an extra 1% of wiggle room, because if we're talking risk reward, if I'm entering here and maybe I'm given $2 of wiggle room, if I'm right, the reward's going to be $4 plus easy. I'm personally not going to take that trade. Not interested in it, but I am interested in watching it and observing it. Semiconductors, NVDA, monster earnings reaction, and just a gap up blue sky breakout. Very significant strength out there. Impressive for NVDA bulls. Held the daily support level with a double bottom at 287s, 288. And not a very convincing new all-time high, but a big 8% day. What did AMD do? Following along. MU, that was right on cue. MU's always been a big laggard in this sector. It did shift some momentum here. Let's see if MU can confirm a weekly trend change. This would be a kind of setup where I wouldn't have any interest as a bull here, but if we pull back looking for a weekly higher low, playing off that low for a potential long-term position. But I don't know anything about the fundamentals for MU other than it has been an underperformer of those other two names for a significant amount of time. Solar sector, lower high set, so we're looking at the potential of continued weekly consolidation. If you look at the 2-day time frame, it's essentially a high, higher low, lower high, and close to rolling over into further weekly consolidation. So if we do break that low of 92.34, the probabilities of a weekly bull flag will decrease significantly. And at this point, it is still a possible weekly bull flag. And all things considered, the fact that IWM is so weak and growth is so weak and we're still holding daily support, that is still impressive for the bulls. So I would say solar, you compare it to IWM. IWM clearly a bit weaker. So solar perhaps one of the stronger growth sectors. MJ, so MSOS started, it was a very ugly day in the cannabis sector today. Both sides of the border, just tons of weakness. And it was interesting for me. So I made a bounce attempt entry on CGC and was just looking at it as a low to the high. And at that point, we had given back 50% plus of this move. The hourly RSI was real beat up. Shorter term time frames were beat up. So I entered today and said, all right, I'm going to attempt to make a bounce. So I locked in the majority of my gains in this sector on the bounce up. I made one small attempt to re-enter MSOS and stopped out on the $30 break. And that was giving back a tiny bit of profits. This was the move today where I said, all right, I'm going to play this hourly oversold bounce, and it's either going to be our daily high or low, or I'm going to take a pretty solid loss. I'm going to go fairly aggressive here. And so I did take a multiple day loser, long story short, but what it was is just starting to scale in on the morning, and I made an entry, maybe 1330s. I made one more, maybe 1320, and I said, all right, one more if 13 breaks, stop under 1280. I knew I was leaving the computer for the day, so I set my stop, and it's just I either get the hourly oversold bounce and daily high or low for a really nice win, or I take a multiple day loser stopping out, giving back some profits from the initial bull move. And this was the kind of move where, to me, this shows significant unwinding of positions. So what do I mean by that? Well, there was zero bounce, and it was just constant sustained selling pressure. And just watching it on the 2-minute time frame and watching the bid and the ask, you could see that any bounce is being sold into. And that's, to me, shows big positions unwinding. Because if you've got, 100,000 shares here, 200,000 shares, 500,000, however many, if you are looking to exit, you can't just smash the bid or you're going to collapse the price. And next thing you know, we're going to be down 20%. You have to do it in a sustained way. If you want to get to the exit, you can't cause a panic and have everybody rush to the exit at once. You give these little bounce attempts for bulls trying to buy the dip, or maybe some shorts are covering. And anytime RSI cools off a little bit, you're selling into that bounce. And it was a completely bearish correlation with IWM. And what I was hoping for was I was watching the 5-minute RSI on IWM crushed, and I was hoping that this would mark the bottom in the cannabis sector for an hourly oversold bounce. So that bottom was hit in IWM at 1020. And on CGC, what were we doing at 1020? Right here, we tried to bottom. So what does this show us? This shows us a bounce attempt, a very weak one, but a bounce attempt because IWM is bouncing and someone is selling into CGC. The correlation is having CGC attempt to bounce with IWM, but someone is constantly selling. And again, they're not just smashing the bid. They're just putting a little bit of shares, 5,000 shares on the ask. They get bought, 5,000 put right back. At the end of the day, it happened again. The exact same thing. IWM bounced right here. So from 230 to 305, we bounce. CGC, 230, tries to bounce. We get 10 minutes and then just constant selling. And I was watching it, tick for tick, just observing, because I gain a lot of insight through just observing a lot of the time as well. I mean, the amount of time I'm on this computer screen during trading, the amount of time that I'm actually trading versus observing, it's probably 10-to-1 observing versus trading. But constant selling. And we would buy the ask of 1240, 1241, and then someone would drop it right back down at 1240. And we buy 1240 to 1241, ask at 1240. And that's just someone constantly just continuing to put shares on the ask And again, they can't just market sell into the bid or they're going to collapse the price. They have to do small chunks. And that's why whenever I see a huge amount of shares put on the ask, that's either someone who doesn't know what they're doing or someone who is trying to scare people, because anybody who is really trying to sell a large amount of shares is doing so like CGC was doing today. The other factor is, for me, the news catalyst here was NDAA and the fact that the SAFE Act is probably not going to be in it. For me, that's been priced in. I have never had any expectation that SAFE was going to go through NDAA this time around. Maybe I would have given it a 10% chance, but this clearly shows me with this price action that the market had not priced that in yet. And priced in for me is not the same as priced in for the market, because it seems to me after today's action that the market was a lot more hopeful that NDAA would have SAFE included with it, just watching its response when it became clear that that was going to be less likely last night and into today. So lots of observations, and again, a solid, decent loss and a great learning experience for me. And at this point, I know we're likely going to see a daily bounce soon, but today was my attempt. And that's it. I'm done. I'm missing this bounce now. And I'm not interested in the sector bullish until I have a reason to have bullish, until there's bullish momentum. So that for me is to prevent from just giving back. I gave back some of my gains. So let's say I made 10 gains and now I've given back 4 or 5 of them. I'm done, because the last thing I'm going to do is get stubborn and revenge trade and just bang my head against the wall trying to trade this sector bullish when clearly the bulls have lost a lot of their momentum. And I'm not just going to keep giving back all my gains from the bounce. I got to cut it. So I would rather buy into momentum and not nail the bottom and be instantly green in a trade as a bull, as opposed to trying to nail the bottom and having red. So I am back to an observer in the cannabis sector for the foreseeable future. And we're going to look for daily lower highs to be the result of the bounces from here. MSOS did bounce at the end of the day. This looks like MSOS, the ETF here, has $200 million to allocate to purchase companies. And it looks like, I'm assuming here, but the last 15 minutes, they were buying. They bought TCNNF, they bought GTBIF, and in response to that, those names go up and the ETF holdings go up, so the ETF goes up as well. So we're going to get that information in the next 24 hours or so, less than that, and we'll know if they were indeed buying. I would say 96% chance that they were. So it leads to a longer, lower wick, and it looks like a bounce was taking place, but this doesn't mean anything to us. We need a whole bunch more follow through. We need that hourly trend change, and even then, we're just going to zoom out and scout a daily lower high. So bulls have given back way too much of this move. And again, it's the kind of thing where it's just a shame that the market trades every day, because the politics for this sector take place at a tortoise pace on a monthly basis. And there's a lot of trading that goes on in between anything actually happening, as we certainly know. And that's been the case for a decade, as I've been watching this sector since 2010, watching for shifts. We are still Schedule 1, which means no medicinal benefit, while there are so many states that have medicinal marijuana. It is just the biggest conundrum of hypocrisy. Moving on. BKKT. So I'm still watching it. No trade attempts. Bears in complete control because I have no position. I want this to dump to $4. The more we dump in this straight drop, the bigger the bounce is going to be. So if I'm looking for a 20% bounce, now I'm looking for a 30-40% bounce. But again, I am not entering into weakness. I am just patiently waiting for a trade signal that I can act on. Either a volume climax candle where I can bottom fish a low, or a break of the lower high pattern every day where I just look for a day trade on that momentum once it finally shifts, once the scales shift from supply to demand. Yes. So just watching the pattern of a lower high every day. RIVN, hourly oversold bounce, not getting any follow through. It's a potential hourly bear flag. And this is another one to watch for a bounce, because the odds that we bounce above 95.20 are certainly more likely than not. Congrats to the Bears, big time blow off top. We know how this goes. This is the IPO game where the first week of trading means absolutely nothing for fundamentals. Hood did it. Hood went up for 4 days in an insane run and has done nothing but give it back. Are we going to see RIVN do the same thing? Maybe. Hood did have some nice bounces in there. This doesn't look like much, but this is over a 15, almost a 20% bounce there in that one little candle. From here, 42 to 51, that's a 20% plus bounce. So there will be bounces along the way, but let's see if it plays out the same with that just being the top, and then we slow bleed. Gold, 4-hour equilibrium continuing to play out. So we had drawn it in the video yesterday up to this point, and now we got the lower high, and we're scouting a higher low if that support level breaks for the further daily consolidation coming. But just a tightening range here on the metals as the dollar starts daily consolidation. Metals bulls would have liked to have seen a solid green day in response to that. But again, this is a great example of the dollar giving us historical RSI levels. I cannot suggest it enough. The amount of money I've made trading off of historical RSI levels in combination with a bunch of other things, but it's significant. I didn't take this trade, but I'm just remembering, CGC, back when in 2018, 2019, I was using 4-hour historical RSI. I can remember being in Iceland and paying for the trip with a 4-hour oversold bounce on CGC because of historical RSI levels. So historical RSI levels, when you see something where you have 4 or 5 examples going back years, that's when you pay attention. Natural gas still in our pattern, nothing to update, but certainly still watching it. And oil, one thing I want to point out on oil is how similar this pattern is. Top of the bull move, significant daily pullback, inability to break resistance, significant pullback. Top of the bull move, significant pullback, inability to break resistance, significant pullback. Same thing. All right, V-shaped bounce, back to test resistance, reject from resistance. V-shape, test resistance, reject, head back down for a few days. How many? 1, 2, 3? 3 days, 4 days down. 3 days down, and we bounce instead of lower high with a 2-day bounce. 2-day bounce, lower high set, drop to the lower low. Drop to the lower low. This time, back here, we did hold that low initially. Here we broke it, so that's one small difference, but this led to a multiple day bounce. Does that mean that oil is about to see a multiple day bounce? I'm astounded at how closely we are doing the exact same thing as the last time we saw weekly consolidation. And this is astounding. So let's keep watching and see how it plays out. It's a beauty. Daily oversold conditions marked the best entry opportunity for another leg up. Let's see if this pullback, if it were going to be the exact same thing, which again, I'm not going to hold my breath for, but it would be 2 to 3 days of a bounce, fail to break 80.68, roll over for another leg down for daily RSI to approach oversold. We'll see. Appreciate you watching. Do good things, and we will see you soon. We got a Black Friday membership holiday sale coming up. I'll let you know about that next week.